Hello, everyone. This is Betsy Wurzel, your host of Chatting with Betsy on Passionate Rural Talk Radio Network, a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Our mantra is educate, enlighten, and entertain. And I must say, that does happen with my guests. I do get educated, enlightened, and entertained. And, folks, I have two public service announcements before I introduce my wonderful guest. September is right around the corner. This will be posted in September. September is World Alzheimer's Awareness Month. If you have any questions about your memory, any memory concerns, please, I beg you, consult your primary care physician for a screening. Tell them your concerns. There is clinical trials. There are things available now that weren't available 14 years ago. So I want to mention that. And also September is Suicide Prevention Month. I'm a huge mental health advocate. Here in the U.S., the crisis hotline is 988. If you're out of the U.S., you'll have to consult with your area of where you could go. If you have any mental health concerns, if you are depressed, please reach out. Please tell your primary care doctor and ask for a referral. There's no shame in seeking support. It's okay to need support. And that's my public service announcements. And today I am so honored. And, you know, it's such a pleasure, and I'm so blessed to do what I do and to meet wonderful people. And with me today, I could say is a fine young man because as a middle-aged woman, I do consider my guest a fine young man. My guest is Daniel Clarke, C-L-A-R-K-E. That's how you spell his last name. He is founder and CEO of Elderado, a website that makes it easier for people in Ontario, Canada, to compare all of their retirement, home, and long-term care options. Daniel was a caregiver to his grandma, Marnie Ellis, who inspired him to start Elderado, and I want to dedicate this podcast to Daniel's grandma, Marnie Ellis. And this is why, folks, I say, I've said it so many times, we can teach valuable life lessons to our children as caregivers. And Daniel is a fine example, and I know that Daniel's grandma is proud, and she would be very proud of him. But I want to welcome Daniel Clarke to Chatting with Betsy. Welcome, Daniel.
Hi, Betsy. Thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for having me. That was a very, very kind introduction. So, yeah, I'm really excited to be here.
Daniel, I hope you don't mind I call you a fine young man. My son is 40. So I consider anyone 40 and younger young.
I'll certainly take it. I've definitely been called worse. I'll definitely take the title, fine young man.
I am so glad that we connected on LinkedIn, and it warms my heart to see young people get involved with caregiving and to learn lessons from caregiving. And you learned compassion. That's why you probably started Elderado, is out of compassion for people who are looking for retirement home or long-term care. And I just want to ask, because I know, but the audience doesn't know, how did you start Elderado? I hope I'm pronouncing it correctly.
Yeah, you are. So, I started Elderado at the beginning of 2023. So previously I was working in completely different industry. I was in the endurance sports space. I was a global marketing manager for an endurance sports brand, but I was ready to shift away from that. And a number of years previous to that was when I had this experience where my grandma had lupus. She ended up, after a number of years, she ended up being hospitalized. And when we were in the hospital, that's when my family learned that, we were told it's not the right place for her. she needed to move into either a assisted living retirement home or move into long-term care. And, there's already the shock of my grandma's condition deteriorating. And then now all of a sudden you've got to, we didn't even know what long-term care versus retirement homes were. And, so we're up in Canada. I know that the healthcare system is a little bit different up here, but you get connected with a social worker or a care coordinator. They've got different titles at different hospitals, but essentially their role is to help guide you. But the issue is that they don't have a lot of resources, and with the resources they have, their hands are very much tied. So, my family's experience was that we got paired with a social worker, and on the long-term care side of things, which is government subsidized care up here, they can provide a list of long-term care homes, but they're not allowed to provide suggestions or recommendations because they're government subsidized. They all meet the government standards or inspection reports that they're basically all considered the same. So even though the social worker is supposed to help, it was a lovely lady that we were paired with, she's just really, her hands are tied there. And then for the retirement home side of things, where that's all private, she basically had one retirement home that she had information on, and then a scattering of information about a couple others. But ultimately, it wasn't kind of the resources that we were looking for. So it ended up being really exhaustive process for my family to first even understand the difference between long-term care and retirement homes, and then which homes would be a good fit, and going out to schedule to tour all those various homes. And when we got to the other side of it, I just remember thinking there's got to be a better way. I used to do quite a bit of backpacking, and I could literally be any corner of the world, and I could go onto sites like TripAdvisor or Booking.com in order to find hotels or a guest house or any sort of accommodations anywhere in the world that would suit my needs. But for something like this, it's almost like if we were going to go on a trip to New York City and we wanted to stay near Central Park. We're not going to call every hotel near Central Park in order to figure out, do they have availability? What are their costs? What sort of amenities do they offer? We would use a site in order to be able to filter our options to figure out which hotel would be best. So I wanted to build a site for elder care in Ontario that lets families do the same thing. We still think that touring homes is important, but we want to help you be able to focus on the maybe 3-4 homes that are most likely to be the best fit, so that you can, focus your attention there.
That is so important, Daniel. I mean, here in the U.S., we have a government site, Medicare, where you can go on and look at the ratings of nursing homes, but I feel, in my own opinion, you can't really go by that. I mean, you can in a way, but it's hard sometimes to visit every place around you.
Absolutely. Yeah, like I can tell you from my family's experience where, a lot of this process was really driven by my grandpa, my mom, and my aunt, but actually kind of touring the homes. But, just the number of homes that they went out to, and, the time that it takes. And the other thing that's really difficult is, my grandma's health was deteriorating, and all the time that you're spending going out and touring homes that, pretty quickly you're able to figure out aren't going to be a great fit, that was taking us away from being with my grandma. So, there is that cost that doesn't get talked about as well, that can really have a big impact on a family.
It sure does. And I recommend for people, whether you're in Canada, the U.S., wherever you are in the world, to plan ahead. If you have a family member you're taking care of and they have an illness, a disease, they might need long-term care. They may not need it exactly at this moment, but they will. Start looking, start preparing, and in the U.S., depending where you are located, I highly recommend hiring someone to help navigate that process. There in Ontario, Canada, you could go on Elderado website. Now, is that just for Ontario, Canada, Daniel, or is it going to branch out to other parts of Canada?
Yeah, so right now we're just in Ontario. We do have plans to be able to expand, but we really want to make sure that we get it right here first. And I'll reiterate the point that you just made about doing research ahead of time. The first thing I did when I started Elderado is I spoke to 80 families about the 80 families who had placed a loved one in a long-term care or retirement home in the previous year. And 73 of the 80 families hadn't done any research prior to a medical professional letting them know that their loved one, needed to move into elder care. And it's not something that a lot of us like to think about. But if we can be prepared and we can be proactive, it's still going to be a really difficult situation. But having lived through the process of looking for elder care, the more research that you can do ahead of time, the better prepared you are, the easier that transition will be for the entire family.
Yes, you don't want to wait till crisis time, folks. Believe me. My mom, I'll give an example. My dad had Alzheimer's. He fractured his hip. He was in rehab. She wanted to take him home to see if she could take care of him, even though I tried to tell her, I don't think you're going to be able to do it. And she, at the end of the week, had to place him and was, running around like crazy. It's really important to plan ahead, and I can't repeat that enough. Wherever you are, it's universal to me. Caring for a loved one, situations might be different, but overall I feel that it's universal. You have to plan. You have to look for a place. And if you're fortunate enough to live in Ontario, Canada, you could go on Elderado website, which Daniel is going to give, and it will be in the blog. But the more resources that you have available to help you, the better off you'll be. And Daniel, that's why I do this show, because I want people to know about resources, whether they're in Canada, the U.S., whether it's universal. I want to help people, and you want to help people. And I think what you are doing is beautiful. That shows you are a beautiful human being. And I hope I'm not making you blush.
Thank you very much. Yeah, well, I really appreciate that, and the work that you do, it really helps, for different resources or organizations to get their name out there. So, we really appreciate all the all the work that you do, because it can, you don't realize how much there is to learn until you're in it. So even for families that do lots of preparation ahead of time, you're still, and I would say that I felt like my family had done quite a bit of preparation kind of before my grandma's condition deteriorated. And but still, just when you're in it, it's just there's so much that you have to learn, and it feels like it is all coming at you so quickly. And something that can be really difficult if you're searching online is that there's all sorts of resources that a lot of the resources online they get funded through some sort of grant. So they were, when they were created, they were accurate, but then over time they become less and less accurate, and they aren't kept up to date, but they're still online, and that can make it really difficult for families to, again, be able to navigate their options and understand what those options are.
That's exactly true, Daniel. I agree with that. And I've interviewed many people from Canada, many people in the U.S., and I will tell you that it's universal that the resources, either people don't know about them, Daniel, or it's limited. And people have started companies, just like you, who, out of necessity, because they saw a need in their area, that, where can I go to pick out a facility for my mom, my grandma, or my husband or wife, partner, whoever it is, and how can I best find out about a place. So where's the best place to go? Your Elderado is such an important resource for those in Ontario, Canada, that I just praise you because I think it's wonderful. Out of necessity comes invention, they said, or something like that. It's just people realize, oh, I really, need this. And Daniel, I don't know, I guess it's the same in Canada. I didn't know about resources in my own backyard. I did not know. And I'm sure people in Ontario don't know about you and your wonderful resource. Well, they're going to know now.
Yeah, and you're completely right. Like it's something that we are constantly trying to make more and more people aware. Like one of the some of the challenges are that up here, a lot of people from the beginning to the end of their search is about 14 days. So there's a lot of people who aren't really thinking about this until it kind of takes over your life, where suddenly this becomes, you've got all these different problems day to day until someone in your family has, a health problem, and then you have one problem to focus on. And it can be, it can be just so overwhelming to know, what's available to you. And that's where, besides just, creating a database where people can, filter and compare every long-term care and retirement home, we also try and, provide education about some of the different resources that are available. For example, in Canada, we rolled out the Canadian Dental Care Plan on May 1st for seniors. So, trying to provide education on, if you're interested in the Canadian Dental Care Plan, how you apply, who's eligible, where you can find doctor's offices, because, there are resources that exist, but they're just really difficult to know, where they are and how they can support you.
That's exactly right. I'm curious, Daniel, here in where I live, we have a program that helps the aging population. I'm now included in that. Hard to believe that I've reached that. And they help people, senior citizens, or if you're not at that age, if you're disabled, finding help, assistance with paying utilities and different prescription programs. And they help with Medicare and here in the U.S. and different government programs. I did not know about that until my pharmacist many years ago told me. He said, Betsy, why don't you go to the Evergreen Center? Because Matt was going on Medicare prescription program at that time. And I said, really? They help you? He said, yeah. And I went down there, Daniel, and the woman said, oh, yes, we help people. We even do free counseling. I didn't know that. That's in my next town over. So this is what I'm talking about. We don't know what is available locally, whether you're in Canada, no matter where you are, in the U.S. I didn't know. I didn't even know that there was a death doula that I could have hired the next town over until I interviewed her, I think, a year and a half ago. Had I known about her, I could have hired her for Matt. And this is why I'm so passionate, Daniel, about providing people with resources. This is why I do what I do, because I didn't know, and I wish I did know. And, of course, things, pop up, new things, new resources pop up. And this is why I'm passionate about what I do. But you are such an important resource in your area.
Thank you.
You really are.
You're completely right. How often, not just to deal with, healthcare, but in all aspects of our life, where once we make it over some, solve a problem or overcome some sort of hurdle, where, we're able to find resources that would have been a lot more useful, previously. And that was, that was part of my experience just between the time that my family was looking for care for my grandma and then when I actually started when I actually started Elderado, because it was a little over 5 years later that I actually did it. And, part of that process was speaking to, friends, friends, neighbors, colleagues about who have been through similar processes, and, learn what it was like for them, learn what their pain points were. And, one of the things that I learned is that, I thought it was difficult for my family. And then, I grew up in a very multicultural area in Scarborough, and when I was speaking to, some of my friends from Scarborough, where their parents or grandparents don't speak English, or English is a second language, and they prefer to converse in or speak to medical professional in a different language, and there was no easy way for them to be able to sort their care options by language. Or we even have culturally designated homes up here. So in a culturally designated home, that's where a lot of the programming and activities are geared towards a particular culture, and also the meals are. And that can be something that can really help people feel a lot more at home. And it's so hard to be able to navigate, to be able to find where those homes are. So we put together, like on Elderado, you can filter by language. So there's 23 different languages that CARE's offered in Ontario. Wow. And there's 22 different cultural designations. So, you can actually go on to Elderado, and if you're looking for, perhaps you're looking for Cantonese, or perhaps you're looking for an Italian cultural home, you can see which homes offer that, in order to be able to just simplify that process, to be able to know, okay, these are homes that are most likely going to be the best fit for my loved one.
That's very important. That is extremely important, because people do look to be in their own cultural environment. And I live in New Jersey, which is very diverse, multicultural, and we also have homes that are dedicated, I guess you could say, for different cultures. Not so much Chinese that I know of, but more like Asian Indian in my area.
And that's something where, if anybody's listening to this especially from the GTA, they could probably guess where, the Chinese cultural homes might be versus the Italian versus, like I said, there's 22 different cultural designations. A lot of times it's in the region where that culture is quite prominent. But something that I didn't realize when I started Elderado, and it was actually a doctor that mentioned this to me, is he asked me if I knew why having the language filter would be so important for Elderado. And I was just thinking that if someone doesn't speak English, then they want to be able to communicate with care professionals. But and one of the early signs of dementia and Alzheimer's is actually losing second and third languages. So if someone can receive care in their native tongue, then they can stay independent longer, which, for someone with dementia or Alzheimer's to be able to stay independent for a longer period of time, that can really improve their quality of life.
Yes. And they do revert back to their native language. I know that my grandmother, she might have started having memory loss, but God bless her, she was in her 90s. She was 90 when she went into a nursing home facility, and she would talk to me in her native language, and I'd say, Grandma, I don't know what you're saying. I'm not Harriet. She thought I was her daughter, my mom. And I said, you have to speak English. And that's so important. I have to ask you, Daniel, what does your family think of what you're doing? They must be really proud of you.
Yeah, they are. I've got a lot of really great support, including some free labor from my mom, which is always really helpful. But yeah, my family's been really supportive. So both my wife, who is very much kind of carrying a lot of the responsibilities for the household, because as a new startup, I not drawing a salary or anything like that. So, my wife being very supportive, and then, my parents, my grandpa as well. He's always cheering me along. He's turning, actually, by the time this podcast will be out, he'll be 96 by then, and
wow.
still living at home independently, and very a great cheerleader in what I'm doing, and then also really helps provide some perspective and also some grounding as to why something like this is really important. Where I've been fortunate enough, I think my grandpa's one of the most incredible people, and I've been able to have a lot more time with them as I've been in my 20s and in my 30s, where it's developed from that kind of traditional grandfather relationship to when you're a little bit older, that relationship can evolve a little bit more and learn more about who he was at my age, and kind of more aspects of his life. And I feel very fortunate to have been able to do that. I wish I could have done that with my other grandparents as well. And I think part of that is just when you're younger, you don't always appreciate everything that you've got. But yeah, my family's been really supportive of me and really helpful. So like I said, my mom's offering some free labor where we're working on adding descriptions for all 1,400 homes. So right now, if you were to go on Elderado, we've got things like video tours, sample menus, activity calendars, inspection reports, the language, the culture. We pull the Google reviews. We've got some pictures of the homes, but we want to actually have descriptions for all the different homes. So my mom's helping me and a couple other people that are all working on putting this together, so that people can have even more information to help them, really figure out which homes are going to be the best fit for them.
That is great. You have to have, and you have it, Daniel, I could tell. You had the passion, you had the drive, and you have empathy for people. And that helps. I mean, to start your own business out of love, that's what to me, in my opinion, you did that out of love for your grandma, and you want other people to be able to check out homes, to save them time, and to assist people. That is beautiful, and I think that you are going to be very successful. Give yourself time, but you will be. I could see it.
I really appreciate that, and part of it is I saw, because like I said, it was really my grandpa and my mom and my aunt who did all the heavy lifting with all my grandma's care. But just seeing what that was like and seeing how difficult it was, that's something where now that I've seen it, I certainly don't want a family to have to go through it all over again. When my parents get older, and after 5 years seeing no improvement, and in fact, in many ways, the way that families in Ontario at least have had to navigate their elder care options, in a lot of ways, it had deteriorated over those 5 years, and it had gotten even more difficult and even more challenging. I feel like we had a solution that can really make it easier for families, and so I love the work that I get to do now. I love that the people that I get to meet, and always trying to learn more, and so it's been a great journey. I've been at it now for about 20 months, so I've really enjoyed this journey.
And you know what, Daniel, you're a perfect prime example of really, as I said earlier, of how caregiving as a young person that you were with your grandma can teach you life lessons that are valuable and to learn. When I was younger, my grandma would tell me stories. I remember them now, but I didn't really appreciate it back when I was younger. But I appreciated it more when I became older. And now I really do appreciate it. And I wish I would have asked her more questions about her youth and her experiences coming over to America. Excuse me. And I think that, and I've said this many times in my show, this is my own opinion, folks, but I'm going to say it. I'm a Jersey girl. I say it like it is. If I'm looking for someone to help me navigate looking for a facility or, a nurse manager or whatever you're looking for, I want someone, me personally, want someone who's experienced it because they know how you feel. They do. They know. It's so different. I have interviewed people who have said, you know what, prior to caring for a loved one in the family, I didn't know what a caregiver went through. But now I know. And then they have a different view. And it's so much different. So that's my opinion, folks. I would rather go to someone who's experienced it, who has that deep passion to help people. It's great to have book knowledge, and I'm not going to knock that. It's great to be smart and have book knowledge. But you know what? Life experience, you can't get that from a book, folks. You just can't. And I just feel, Daniel, that you have life experience and that you feel for families. And that's why you do what you do. And that's really, it's awesome because you're just not doing it. Yeah, of course you'd like to make money. Who doesn't? But you're doing it from your heart, and that shows through. And that's why I believe you will be successful.
Thank you very, very much for that. And, there's certainly life experiences that have helped shape a lot of the ways that we do things at Elderado. Like, that's one of the reasons why it's very important to me that we include every long-term care and retirement home in Ontario in one place for people to be able to navigate. So we're the only site to be able to do that. So, the Ministry of Long-Term Care has a long-term care database that, I don't think is that great, but, I'd let anyone else kind of be the judge of that. And then the Retirement Home Regulatory Authority has their own retirement home database, but again, it's more regulatory focused. And then all the other private databases, they're all, some form of pay to list. So, you pay money to be on the platform. And my experience as, looking for care for my grandma is, we didn't want to just choose from the homes that are paying to be on a platform. We wanted to be able to compare all the homes that are available, not just the ones that are paying to be on a particular site. So, that's something that perhaps if I didn't have this experience, if I didn't have the experience with my grandma, then, perhaps we wouldn't have had that same sort of policy in place. But that's been a big way that we've been able to really gain a lot of traction and build a lot of momentum because we've got all of your options in one place. We don't tell you this is the best home and then that's the next best home because everyone's circumstances are unique. And, quite frankly, for a lot of people, the most important factor is going to be location. And, you want it to be accessible either to where the person who's going to be moving into the home already lives or, where there's going to be some sort of family members or caregivers close by. So we give families the information so that they can choose what's best for them, as opposed to us saying, "Hey, this is the number one home," because everyone's circumstances are so unique.
That's true. That is very true. What's good for one person may not be good for someone else. My mom went into a facility, assisted living, at the age of 91. And my brother took her to places by him. She didn't like them. And it so happened, this is kind of a cute story. As it happened, her best friend was in a assisted living facility. And she said, I want to go visit where my friend is. And she liked it. And it was culturally for her, and she went to this facility because she felt comfortable. And sometimes it's just, a recommendation from a friend. But I think going on your website, Elderado, if I lived in Ontario, Canada, I would definitely go on your website. I would definitely be contacting you. And I just want to encourage people, if you are listening and you were in Ontario, Canada, or you know someone in Ontario, Canada, go on the Elderado website. And I would also recommend listening to Daniel's videos, which are on YouTube, which has information. And I wish you the best, Daniel Clark. I really do. I wish I could hug you in person, because I just think it's wonderful. Warms my heart. It does, what you are doing. And I get so excited, folks, that I forgot to say the disclaimer. So let me say now before I forget, so I don't get in trouble. The views of the guest may not represent those of the host of the station. There. To my disclaimer. Excuse me.
Well, And just one thing that I'd love to add to that is, because a lot of people ask us where we get the name Elderado from. So we actually spell it like Elder, like ELDER, then ADO.ca. And a lot of people have heard of Elderado, the Mayan city of gold and prosperity. And one of the big things, especially up here when it comes to long-term care, you only hear about all the negative stories. You hear about long wait times. You hear about a lack of staff. You hear about, lousy food, all sorts of things like that. And, I'm not here to defend, quality of life in retirement homes or long-term care. There's a lot of things that can be done a lot better. But at the same time, there's a lot of people who are living their best lives in the homes. Like I know it. I volunteer every week in a long-term care home in Whitby, and we want to be able to share more of those stories and provide a little perspective that it's not all doom and gloom, and that there's plenty of people who are living their best life. So when you move into a long-term care or retirement home, it's not the end of your story. There's a whole nother chapter to be written, and we want to help people to figure out which home it's going to be to write the best chapter possible.
That is amazing. And what is your website, Daniel? How can people get in touch with you?
Yeah, so it's Elderado.ca. That's ELDERADO.ca. Thank
you. And I wish you the best, and I do see a very bright future. Don't ask me how I know these things. I just could tell. Just like people who come on my show and who have written books, and I just could sense who will be a bestseller just by their drive and passion. But thank you so much, Daniel Clark, for what you do for other people. And, it's wonderful. And, again, I dedicate this podcast in memory of your grandmother, Marnie Ellis. And, folks, and may her memory be a continuous blessing to you and your family, Daniel. I just want to thank you're welcome. You're welcome. My pleasure. I want to thank you all for listening today. Please share this podcast. Share this show. I'm here to help people, and I want to reach as many people as possible, and I need your help. And it's free to subscribe to Chatting with Betsy. I'm on iHeart, Spreaker, Amazon Music. If you know anyone in the Ontario, Canada area, let them know about Daniel Clark and Elderado. I'm here to help people. And you know what, folks, I'm going to say this because I'm a Jersey girl. When we have information that can help people and we don't share it, to me, that's being selfish. And we need to share what we know. We need to share resources to help other people. This is what we're here for, I believe, on this earth. We're here to help others. And I'm here to help you all. And I like to provide resources to help you have a better life, help you have a better journey with your loved one. And I know how important it is to know about resources, which is why I do what I do. And all the information about Daniel Clark, and that's Clark with the E, will be in the blog that Jeannie White, who's the station manager, writes, that produces the show. And I want to thank Lillian Caldwell, who's CEO of Passion World Talk Radio Network, and makes this all possible. Excuse me. And I just am grateful, folks. I'm really grateful to do what I do. And as I wrap up, if you are looking for a support group, I have hashtag Kick Alzheimer's Ass Movement on Facebook, and you can follow me on my Facebook page, Betsy E. Wurzel, W-U-R-Z-E-L. And you can see that I advocate for Alzheimer's daily, just about daily. And you can see pictures of my life, my son, my late husband, and you're welcome to look me up. And I also, as I always say at the end of my show, in a world that you could be anything, please be kind, shine your light bright, because we need it now more than ever before. And until we chat again, be safe, be kind. This is Betsy Wurzel, you're a host of Chatting with Betsy on Passion World Talk Radio Network, a subsidiary of Global Media Network, LLC. Bye-bye now.